Vampires are some of the most versatile monsters imaginable. Like, plop a vampire in any era and it immediately becomes shorthand for whatever problems people have. Back when Bram Stoker was writing about Count Dracula, he created an aristocratic, well-moneyed bloodsucker who exploited people for their land and their red liquids. Bounce forward to that same Count, but done up on the big screen, and all of a sudden you have a sexual monster that seduces and hypnotizes vulnerable young folks. Jump forward again to the Twilight era, and there are vampires that sparkle. What I'm trying to say here is that blood-sucking humanoids will forever be scary, so of course there are plenty of urban legends surrounding them. Rules, things to watch out for, ideas that might stop them, and more. It's quite fascinating when you really sink your teeth in. That's it, folks. We've reached the pinnacle of comedy. You can go home. Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're gonna take a look at the top 5 scary vampire urban legends. I suppose that vampires themselves are urban legends, but we won't think too long about that. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more visceral voraciousness. Perfect, let's begin. Coming in at number 5, we've got Boneless Boys. You may be familiar with the claim that vampires are shapeshifters. Depending on who you ask and what vampires they're familiar with, you'll get all sorts of different stories about men who turn into beasts. Bats are a popular figure, but there are also tales of cats, dogs, wolves, rats, and more. Hell, if you've seen Dracula 3D, you'll know that some might even transform into gigantic praying mantises and scuttle up the stairs to kill your dad. They're quite versatile vampires. But you might not know about another type of shapeshifting some folks say they have. One that makes them even more versatile than any beastly form could ever hope to be. That's right, I'm talking about the boneless vampire. What do you mean boneless? Well, I mean they literally have no bones. Now, I can't prove this, but tell me, have you ever seen a vampire's skeleton? Whenever they die, whether it be by stake or by fire, they disintegrate into dust or other similar vampire particles, right? They leave no bones behind because there are no bones. It's a revelation, I know. But they can still walk and talk like any other humanoid, but with the added benefit of vampire powers. Plus, this bonelessness means they're fantastically flexible, which works wonders in their seductive activities and their sneaking into homes to drink blood. Even if you lock your abode up tight, a vampire can contort its boneless form and make it through the tiniest of cracks. Keyholes? Not just for keys anymore. I bet you didn't expect me to lead with a legend like that, now did ya? Hopefully that sets the tone. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Sukuyan. A lot of folks look to European legends to find out about vampires, but they really do exist all around the world. By different names, sure, but they still suck blood and pass for people. One such fascinating bloodsucker is the Sukuyan from Jamaica. The creature takes on the form of a shriveled old lady by day. You might even see her at the market and offer her a helping hand. But if you knew what she did by moonlight, you'd take your helping hands elsewhere. A Sukuyan will shed her skin at night, becoming a blood-drinking fireball. This skinless apparition can then float around the community, drinking the blood of anyone unfortunate enough to become a target. After a long night of draining folks of their vital essences, the fireball returns home to its discarded skin. It can then don the loose organ like a suit and return to life as an old lady. With every use, the skin becomes more and more wrinkly, wear and tear and all that jazz. Usually the Sukuyan will do a pretty good job of hiding her skin after she's freed for the night because it's left pretty vulnerable. While flying around, nothing can really be done to protect the skin. So if you ever find some skin, do your best to mess with it. Some folks say that if you salt or pepper it, it'll cause her to experience extreme burning and itching upon return. Another thing you can do to combat a Sukuyan is scatter rice or salt on your doorstep. It won't protect anyone's blood, but it'll slow the monster down. Like so many other mythical demons, if it comes across a smattering of rice or salt, she'll be compelled to hunker down and count every last grain before leaving. This tends to take a while, leaving the beast exposed and distracted. Take that opportunity to beat her to death or toss her in a vat of boiling oil. It might seem cruel to do that to what looks like an old lady, but hey, you gotta save your blood somehow. Coming in at number 3, we've got vampire pumpkins. Legends are weird, alright? And this one's no exception. I don't quite understand how this came to be a common conception, but it's well documented by the ethnologist Tadimir Vukanovich. Apparently, there was a long-standing belief in the Balkans that if you left a pumpkin or watermelon out for more than 10 days, it would become a vampire. That's right, the gourds would transform into humanoid bloodsuckers. I think I understand Akira Toriyama's vampire comic a little better now. Imagine that, leaving a pumpkin on your stoop for a solid fortnight after Halloween and waking up to an empty yard. Most folks would assume some vandals made off with it, planning to smash it with baseball bats or throw it off a building. But no, it actually just turned into a vampire and now you're gonna get seduced and bit. Great. If this is true, folks better get right on their composting habits. It's similar to the belief that any given object left outside overnight during a full moon will become a vampire. I think this legend originates from people being dumb with their belongings, but I might just be reaching. You can be sure that your produce is about to make a change if a drop of blood appears on its skin. Oh, and the pumpkin vampires can change back into pumpkins, so even if it doesn't disappear, you can be the proud owner of some cannibalistic vegetables. Coming in at number 2, we've got Jiangxi. Let's take a trip to China this time and learn about some of their bloody beasts. A popular one is the hopping vampire, also known as the Jiangxi. Usually appearing as a stiff corpse dressed in Qing Dynasty clothing, these undead beings hop around looking for life force to drain. Life force isn't specifically blood in this case, but the two line up just fine. They spring to and fro during the night, hoping to come across some hapless folks. And just like vampires from other cultures, they spend the day locked up in dark places like coffins and caves. They hop because they're corpses. Rigor mortis has long since set in, making it impossible for them to bend their limbs. So instead of walking, running, or any other sort of human locomotion, they can hop around as best they can. They're also an odd green-white tint, frequently attributed to mold from being buried so long. These vampires are a little less sexy than a lot of the other ones. There are a few ways to survive an encounter with the Jiangxi. You can write a spell in chicken's blood on a yellow piece of paper and stick it to their forehead. Or you can use a sword forged from Chinese coins that has been charged under moonlight. Apparently throwing sticky rice at one will draw the evil out. Maybe they were just hungry. Oh, and connecting this to the boneless bits, although I don't know if that really applies here, conventional wisdom says that a piece of wood could be installed at the bottom of a door to prevent Jiangxi from entering. It's always fun to connect those dots. And finally, at number 1, we've got the Blood Countess. When discussing the origins of vampires, many folks look right to Vlad the Impaler. This Wallachian prince is more than likely the inspiration for Count Dracula's name, as he was a member of the Order of the Dragon. Being a member of this order gave him the surname Dracul, which is only one letter off from the name we know and fear today. But even though Vlad tended to be violent and steak happy, the real blood drainer was waiting in Hungary. Elizabeth Ballery was a countess well known for her brutal lifestyle. Legend says that she tortured and killed over 650 women throughout her life. In true vampiric fashion, she believed that bathing in blood of young girls would keep her young. She was going for a youthful appearance, not eternal life, but you can see how that might have influenced vampire lore. Ballery drained plenty of girls of their blood in order to keep herself young. This practice also seems to be a little more sadistic and fetishistic than Vlad's brutal display of slain enemies. Hold on, aren't some celebrities paying for young people blood infusions now? History has an eerie way of repeating itself, doesn't it? String up your garlic and bust out your mirrors. There are all sorts of additional vampire tidbits to fear now. What'd you think of the list? Did you know about all these vampire myths and legends? What's your favorite vampire fact? Would you let a vampire bite you if they promise not to kill you? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more snide ones from the top 5 strange New York urban legends. Sassy Karen says, please do a story about Maryland's creepy mysteries, especially about Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite having a bottle of cognac placed on his grave for so many years. Even local channels would put up cameras around it hoping to catch the mysterious person, but would never see anyone, yet the bottle would still show up. Thank you for such a great channel with interesting content. Man, I wish some mysterious force bring me booze for all eternity. Largo778 says, when you do Florida urban legends, be sure to add Florida Man. Florida Man is beyond an urban legend at this point. He is a living superhuman. Don Pandemoniac says, gator riding mole people while using the broadcast tower to EMP our cars, making us easy prey. I'd watch that movie. Eli Gonzalez says, I'm pretty upset you didn't mention the legend of the chopped cheese from the Bronx that screeches "yer" at 3 a.m. and scuffs your Tim's is caught lacking at 3 a.m. See, that legend is for locals only. I couldn't touch it. And Kazumakun says, Spider-Man isn't the only one to get a cool villain out of sewer gators. Killer Croc has a cooler name, but a less interesting backstory, to be fair. Granted, Killer Croc is a wicked name, but Spider-Man takes place in New York City, while Batman lives in Gotham. Although I guess Gotham's just like alternate New York. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I get attacked at a gas station by a splinter-covered nightmare, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more heart-stopping hellishness. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hey, Sukuyan will sit up. Actually, no. That's kind of a gross joke, isn't it? Scratch that. Anything you can do to combat a Sukuyan is... Another thing you can do to combat... Another thing you... Man, I